All right, we have a lot of wonderful people coming in today. Well, thank you for everyone. I want to make sure that we're honoring of your time. My name is Kendall Matthews, head of marketing for ElectroNeek for North America, and we're going to be putting together a great series for you, a series to help you understand more about the power behind the ElectroNeek platform and understanding about all the things that you need to know. And this three-part series, this is just a kickoff, and to understand about all the powerful API development tools that are available. And we have Aquandria. She's going to be our guide, our solution engineer, who's going to walk us through all the great things about ElectroNeek and give you a lot of the updates that is going to be needed. So I want to make sure that as you're coming in, if you have any questions, I'm going to be inside of the chat. So I'm going to monitor the chat, be able to answer and provide Aquandria the questions at the end of this presentation. And it's going to make sure that you understand that we're here to answer all of your questions and keep guidance, especially about how this works. So Aquandria, thank you for your time, and it's on to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. They can hear me. Got it. All right, so thank you so much for that introduction, Kendall. As he said, I am the solutions engineer for ElectroNeek for the North America region, and I'm going to be putting together a very good webinar for you guys today. My focal point is going to be how to execute bots via API and also what you can do with it. Also, some of the things that I'm going to be covering in today's agenda will be the spring 2022 release and the new capabilities that we've inquired there. Also, I'm going to be doing a live show of ElectroNeek's platform. So this will be a live show of the Studio Pro, the bot runner, the orchestrator, and also the support portal. So also in this today, we're going to be doing what's called a workshop. So I'm going to have a couple of different workshops to show you. Those are live bots that have been built. I'll go through an explanation and also showing you guys how they run through the system. And then I'm going to open up the table for questions. If you guys have any questions while we are proceeding on throughout the webinar, you are free to post those questions in the chat and we will answer those in the end. So I first want to start off with some of our spring 2022 release new features and improvements. For our orchestrator, you can see the image here. We've added the ability to have multiple orchestrator support. This is the ability to host one domain and have subdomains. For example, if you can see here, it says test orchestrator and also production orchestrator. Here I'll have the ability to upload multiple different workflows into each and set up schedules if I'm working with different clients. I'll also be going over some of the general orchestrator improvements. This is regarding some of your REST API, also the Zapier integration that we have. I'll show you some of that when we get into the live show. For our Studio Pro improvements, we have improved the Chrome extension. Here we have inputted some more stability and reliability when it comes to selections and browser picking. We've also added the ability of the input activities being more stable. This is your general handling materials, such as your GUI automations and the stability inside of the web automation, and also some of your Citrix and RDP functionalities. We've also incorporated some of the better handling when it comes to the attachments and email folders. Also your for each email activities, we've added some stability when it comes to those and also picking those attachments and being able to open into new folders and move into new folders. And also the Studio Pro interface. This is one that you will actually see once I get into Studio Pro. I'll be using the light mode instead of the normal dark mode. So you'll see the difference there and how that looks. So let's go ahead and get into a live show of the platform here. I'm gonna go ahead and open up Studio Pro. Give me just one moment here. While I'm opening up Studio Pro, if you have any questions, please feel free to post into the chat. Alrighty, and as you can see here, this is our Studio Pro platform. Here you'll see me using light mode. You'll have the ability to go into the settings and interface to change this back to dark mode if that's your preference. Inside of our Studio Pro, that is also known as our IDE, which is our integrated development environment. In the middle, you will find our canvas along with the modes in which you are able to create, such as project mode and also in playground mode. Project mode opens up the project. Yes.
We can't see your screen.
I do apologize about that. Let me go ahead and. Can you guys see it now?
Not yet. Oh, here it comes.
Okay, awesome. Don't we love technology?
Wonderful.
Right, we can confirm. Okay, awesome. Great. Thank you. As I was stating here, this is Studio Pro. This is our IDE, which is our integrated development environment. In the middle here, you should find the canvas. This will be the project mode and also the playground mode. Inside of your project mode, this is where you would have the ability to create a project structure. This gives you the ability to edit your elements one by one. You will also have playground mode, which you can create a single Neeks file to be placed inside of a project, sort of like a component that you can enter there. On the left-hand side, this is where you would find your activities and tools that you are able to use to create an automation file. And on the right-hand side is where you would find your properties and variables tab. Once you go in and select an automation tool that you would like to use, such as assign value to variable, you'll notice that it'll have the drag and drop functionality, where you'll have the ability to set your variable name. So for this one, I'm just going to say it's variable 1, and we're going to set a value as 1, 2, 3. You also have some what we like to call conditional statements, where you can set up if-then factors by using the basic visual condition builder. The way you'll be able to use that is by opening up this condition builder here, specifying the data component in which you would like to use. For example, this will be our variable 1, and then you're able to select your operator. Here, this will be your less than or equal to, or your equal to what you would like to classify as an indicator. And then you'll have your component. So let's say, for example, we were looking for a variable that was less than or equal to our specified value, which is 1, 2, 3. It would then populate with the condition in which we stated. If variable 1 is less than or equal to 1, 2, 3, then we'll go in to perform a new set of actions. We have multiple different capabilities when it comes to automation factors, such as incorporating some human in the loop by using input dialogues, user notifications, and also selecting file or folders. We have GUI automation, which in here you'll be able to find your mouse and keyboard functionalities and also some of your user interface. So this will be getting any element properties or values from a page and also getting any positions on that page. Inside of the OS automation, a big one that I love to point out here is inside of systems, you will find the ability to use the command prompt. So this is good if you need to run any S-curl, C-curl, any other programming language rather than JavaScript or Python. Speaking of JavaScript and Python, another one that I want to jump down to is here in programming. Although we are a low-code, no-code platform, you still have all of the flexibility to use JavaScript and also Python manually inside of ElectroNeek Studio Pro by dragging out any of these options and setting the parameters there. Over here in the variables tab and properties tab, you'll also notice that if you were to pull out any activity, you'll have the ability to hit learn more on the knowledge base. This will open up a detailed description of how to set up that specific tool or how to set up that automation capability, as well as provide some examples there. That's a very good resource that you'll be able to use during out your tenure with Studio Pro. Now that we've talked a little bit about the Studio Pro and gave a brief overview there, I want to talk a little bit about the bot runner now. Allow me just one moment to go ahead and get that open for you guys. As you can see here, this is our bot runner UI. So you're first met with what's called a run screen, where you would have the ability to manually run a bot using the Neeks file. The way you would do that is simply select run a bot, go into any automation file in which you have created, and then hit run bot to have that run on your machine. Inside of the login tab, this is where you would have the ability to go in and paste your token to get connected to the orchestrator. I'll show you a little bit more on this, and it'll make a lot more sense once we get into the orchestrator on how that actually come about to get attached. In credentials, this is where you would find the ability to add your credentials. So let's say, for example, you have tons of different logins. You have Salesforce, Gmail, a virtual machine. All of those can be stored locally on your machine inside of the bot runner application by adding your credentials there. We are encrypted behind 256-bit encryption. The password is never shown inside the platform. Another one I like to point out inside of the bot runner is the ability to have browser selections. So we do have the ability to support Chrome native, Edge native, Chrome Selenium, and Internet Explorer. We do recommend using Chrome native for the best results. And last but not least, I want to point out the proxy server settings that you're able to set inside of bot runner. Definitely good if you're used to working with proxies and feel more secure working with those. Let's go ahead and get into the orchestrator. Here you'll be met with our orchestrator. On the forefront page, just dashboard, there's no clickable instance on this page. This will just give you an overview of what's going on with your bot runners as well as your workflows. You're able to see the status of the bot runners, also the activity, and even any launch statuses. On your workflows, you'll be able to see all of the workflows that are running or scheduled and all in total, and even your most top launched workflow. If you have a schedule set up for a specific workflow, that can be found inside of next launches. Now let's go ahead and get into some of the meat and potatoes here. If you're currently familiar with the way Orchestrator was set up, you would notice this newbie here. This is the ability to have that multiple orchestrator that we were talking about before. So if I wanted to go into my production orchestrator, you'll see completely different information regarding the workflows or the bot runners there. For example, in workflows here, you'll see that we have one uploaded to this orchestrator. And for your test, you'll also have another one there. And there are two completely different workflows there. A perfect example of how this can be used is, let's say, for example, you have a client who would like to host their own organization and domain using a ElectroNeek Studio platform. So if they want to have a team of developers who are able to create using Studio Pro and also an orchestrator to work out of and manage, you would have the ability to be a main hub that hosts those subordinates, which will be found inside of your drop-down list. Inside of this workflows tab is where you would find the orchestrator name in which that workflow has been uploaded to, the name of that workflow, and also the number of assigned bot runners to that workflow. If it has been set up for a schedule, you'll be able to find that located in the next launch, as well as the status. Another newbie that we talked about in the release is adding this last execution status. So instead of having to go into the clipboard and search through the status, you'll be able to be presented with that on the first forefront page. Another new feature and capability that we also added was the ability to copy IDs when it comes to your workflow and also bot runner. This is a very, very good resource and capability to use if you're going to be running processes using an API, which I'll show you a little more on later. Inside of the workflows tab is where you could also find the ability to access the send email alerts on failure. So if you have a bot or a workflow that you really need to report if this is a success or if this is a fail, you will have the ability to set up a email alert, which can be sent to one person or multiple recipients. You'll also have the ability to activate the webhook link for usage. In that webhook link, you can go ahead and hit link and you'll be copied to the clipboard for use. Talking a little bit here about the runs history. The runs history is going to show all of the history regarding that workflow and all the previous contents of what's been ran regarding the launch status, how long that it took, as well as the launch type. So was this ran using a webhook link? Was this ran manually? Was this a ran through API? That information will be found below under launch type. And then the bot runner name in which that workflow was triggered and any additional actions that were needed. Talking about the assigned bot runners, this is where your central deployment will take place. So let's say, for example, you have a client who's ready to go ahead and receive a workflow, and you're ready to go ahead and assign them to that bot runner. Once you hit configure bot runners, you would go in to find that specific client. If it was a multiple list, it'll be a multiple selection. If it's just one person, you can go ahead and select that participant. Once you hit save, they will have access to that workflow. In schedules, this is where you would have the ability to set up those schedules for a workflow. You can make it a repeatable schedule or a one-time run, which can be ran on any time zone in which you specify. You have different launch types, whether you want it to be hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, or a custom. You're able to go in and do some restrictions here, like exclude some days if you need to, or even go through and exclude by time. Talking a little bit about this bot runners tab, here's where it's going to make more sense with tokens here. So let's say, for example, you have a brand new client and they're ready to get started. They've downloaded the ElectroNeek bot runner. That's the main key component that they would need to have a workflow run on their machine. So they're ready to go ahead and get started, but you need the next step. The next step for them would be to go tokens and generate an access token. This will be generated by you yourself. Let's say, for example, this is your finance team. Once you hit generate, it'll create an access token in which can be downloaded or copied. We also have a useful resource that can show you how to use this token. So let's say we're going to go ahead and copy that token. If I were to go in and open up my bot runner now in my settings and log in and paste that token there and hit connect to orchestrator, I will then be prompted on my bot runner screen, which is here, that there is a new request for approval. Once you go ahead and approve that client, they'll drop down there to approved, again, where we're able to go into those workflows and issue them that workflow under the assigned bot runner section so they can have access. Also in the bot runner section, once you go ahead and click on one of the approved bot runners, we've added new features, again, that copy ID, but also to see the version to ensure that you're running the most current version. Inside of the integration, this is where you're able to now see that Zapier API token can be generated. Simply kind of like generating an access token for the bot runner, you would generate that token there. You will have the ability to go ahead and copy. We also provide documentation on that as well, as far as how to actually trigger an ElectroNeek bot using Zapier. Also in API, we've added tons of new things when it comes to API accessibility inside of the orchestrator. We've made a lot of improvements to the stability when it comes to API. The same way you would generate an access key. That access key will provide you with the ability to trigger a bot. And also in this documentation, we provide some keys that's going to relay back some good data. For example, you have data regarding bot runners, getting the list of all the bot runners or any info on a bot runner by specifying that ID. Also, the ability to get the launches of a specific bot runner or stop a current bot runner that may be running in process. You have the same for the workflows. You also have the ability to launch a workflow from here, which I'll show you in a live example. In launches, this is where you would have the ability to cancel a launch in the queue. For example, if you're running multiple workflows on one machine, this is where it would come into play if you can cancel the rest of those in the queue. Also, the ability here to stop a launch. This will force stop that launch mid-process. In multi-tenancy, this is where you would have the ability to connect orchestrators. Once that access key has been generated, you will paste that there, and that connected orchestrator will drop down below and also be available in your test in production or whatever the name you select in that drop down. And settings is where you can actually go in to change the names of the orchestrators in which you are on at that current time. And last but not least, inside of the live platform demonstration, I want to point out something inside of the support portal in which we have improved. The support portal is used for you to create tickets. Also, if you have any feature proposals that you would like to send to us, any good ideas, anything that you can think of, you can simply go into the support portal and hit create a ticket. You can give that ticket a subject and do any description here. So let's say we're going to describe ticket and also choose the type of ticket. So is this a product issue, a question, or a feature request? And you'll also have the ability to specify which product this is relating to as well. You also have the ability here to attach files. Once you create that ticket, it'll be sent to the support team. Okay, let's go ahead with the next section in the webinar today. In just a moment, I'm going to go ahead and opening up our live demonstration here. Alrighty, so for our first live demonstration, I'm going to be using an application called Postman. Postman is basically an API application where you can use to set different type of API requests and also receive some information back. In here for this specific workflow that I'm going to show today, which is going to be a run invoice workflow with parameters. So what I'm doing is specifying here my launch ID, which this would be the initial bot runner ID in which I want to use. And then once you go into the authorization, sorry about that, we're going to go into the header, sorry. In authorizations, you would have the ability to copy that API key in which we pulled from the orchestrator. So to show a live example of this here, I'm going to go ahead and do a change over so I can give you guys more content and live examples. All right, perfect. So inside of my bot runners, what I want to do is specify my specific bot runner. It's going to do this from scratch here. So we're going to issue a token. Going to generate that there. Going to go ahead and copy that token. I'm going to open up my bot runner because it is currently connected to the other orchestrator here. So I'm going to go to the settings. I'm going to log out. I'm going to go ahead and paste this token here and get connected. Now that we're connected, go ahead to my bot runners and approve that for usage. And we are locked and loaded and ready to go. Now that we have that inside of the bot runners, we can click on which specific bot runner that we're using, such as this one here. That's the one that is online. And if we copy the ID, we'll have the ability to go into Postman and paste that ID here. For example, our authorizations, again, will be coming from the API key. So if I wanted to go in and change that information there, I would go into the most current API key inside of my integrations. I'm going to generate a new key. I'm going to go ahead and copy that key. And we've gotten that from Postman. Inside of our body there is where we would then go and enter that ID again for our bot runner. Okay, let me go pull that there. And we're going to change this one here because I'm actually going to go in and specify a workflow instead. So we can see a triggering type of action. I'm going to use this one here, copy that ID, go back into Postman, and hit that value. Right, and we're going to go ahead and trigger that now. In just a moment, we're going to see that light up green, which that is my Google Chrome. For this workflow, what it's doing is going through and creating an invoice for each client that did not have an invoice regarding the workflow, which I will show you guys the workflow after this process has been ran, but this workflow has been triggered from Postman. It's going through and it's downloading those files. As it's generating, you can see that the bill to information is changing, the ship to information, also the invoice number, and even the rate there, the notes. There's our pop-up saying that all orders that were previously shown as not processed have been successfully processed. So I'll go ahead and click OK. Then I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that workflow so we can see what took place there. Right. And this is the workflow that was triggered using Postman via API. So we had that read a table, import that information as a value to variable, which populated over here on the side in our variables. And then we iterated through each row of that table. And if the status was equal to processed, then I would like to send an email. The email that was being sent with the subject of hello regarding that company's name. And in the mail body, it's just saying, hello, company name, your company tier and partnership has been processed. Thank you. For the statuses that have not been equal to processed, that's when it populated information down below to the console log, opened up the URL in which we've seen it to create new invoices. And once it was done creating an invoice for every single one that was not populated as processed, it went ahead and finished and sent us a user notification. Now for the next example that we have here, I'm going to go ahead and open up another, which would be involving API and also some human in the loop. A bonus factor here that we have is also involving some what we like to call remote desktop interaction. Let's see here. I'm actually going to open this up in project mode. The reason why I went back to open that up in project mode is, as you could see before, when I just clicked open, it was a couple of things surrounded in red. That's because it didn't populate the elements that came along with that specific file. Whereas in this case, when opening up its project mode, we can see there's a new project tab that contains all of those elements there. So with this specific workflow, what it's going to do is return the current number of people in space. And if it's known at the time, it'll return the spacecraft name via API request. We're going to save that response as a variable. And then I'm just going to populate some different information, just the people, not the spacecraft. And then I'm going to save that information to a table, which saves to my local machine. From my user notification, I want to go ahead and say that the API data saved as data table from API. And then I'm going to have some human in the loop here. So this one is going to read that if the data from the API request has been returned successfully, would you like to open your remote desktop to notify the team? The response that's given would either be a yes or a no. If it is a no, it's just going to say a user notification with the data was gathered. If it's a yes, which is what we're going to use for this example, it's going to go in and open the remote desktop. It's going to go in to click on Teams, and then we're going to go ahead to start inserting the information regarding the login. After we get logged in, the sub program that I have here is what's going to open up the chat to my team, and it's going to send a scripted message, any detailed or wording that you would like. And then it's going to actually go in to select the file. So I'm going to go ahead and trigger this now. I'm going to make sure I have a clear focal point on the screen for us to focus. Perfect. Okay. Telling us that our API data was saved. So now I know the name of what the data table is. And of course, we're going to go ahead and notify that team. Right, we're going through that process. We're opening up the desktop there. It's going to go ahead and enter my information. Right, go into the password field. And you can see the instance of bot runner there below as well on the bottom right-hand corner. Alrighty, now we're logged into the remote desktop. It's going to go ahead to proceed to Teams. And we're going to put some content into that field. Let me see if I can type these here. There we go. Okay, so we're pasting in there. Good news, here are the people who are currently in space right now. We're going to go ahead and upload the file, which was sent to the computer. We're going to select that file. It's going to ask this file already exists. We're going to proceed to replace that file by sending in hotkey, which is enter. And that information has been sent to the team regarding the current people in space. Console log down here will tell you the status of the bot as well. And for the last demonstration that we have, it's kind of going to be putting a mix on all of them. So now that we have created our specific project that we would like to do, we want to upload into orchestrators. But what's the instance of uploading into a multiple orchestrator? So I'm going to be giving that example here. Let me actually change over so I can have the ability to have multiple orchestrators. So I'm going to do settings, log out. And I'm going to go back into that gold key. And we're going to get logged in here. Pro. And we are on the correct one. So we're opening up Studio Pro there. All right, now we're going to go to open up that project again that we were working on. Let's give it a minute to populate. All right, so now that we have our initial file here, I'm going to go ahead and hit test. I'm just going to hit save. We have the ability to upload into an orchestrator by hitting that arrow up to the cloud. We're able to specify which specific orchestrator we would like to upload to. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to go ahead and do test. And then let's go ahead and give it a description. We're going to say API data. And we're going to hit publish. Once we've published that into the orchestrator, you should have immediate access. So if I go back into my environment here and I open up my orchestrator, ensuring that I'm on test, inside of workflows, we can see that we've added that there. And we have the ability to set up schedules and also activate those webhook links. I'm now going to go ahead and open up the table for any questions now that we've done the demonstrations. I'll start looking in the chat now. What are the programming prerequisite skills needed to become an ElectroNeek RPA consultant or developer? Some indicated it is a non-coding product. Others indicate JavaScript and or Python skills and prerequisites. Please explain the education and training that is needed with specifics and numbers of hours, days of education needed to become a billable ElectroNeek consultant or developer. Very good question. The education level and skill set definitely depends on learning style. For example, as a general all-around answer here, I would like to say it's very beneficial to have JavaScript knowledge. As we are built off of JavaScript and Python, it won't limit you, but it'll allow more flexibility when it comes to interacting with your activities. As far as the number of hours or days or education needed, I would say if you invest about an hour to 2 hours, maybe even 3 a day, by the end of like 2 or 3 months, you should be super fluent when it comes to the ElectroNeek platform. Regarding education prerequisites, I've completed the viewing of the education available on the website. Interested in what else is needed. I would need some more clarification on this question here, Peter, if you could help me out with that. Is it possible to develop a bot which will access an application that runs under a remote desktop software called AnyDesk? Absolutely, it is possible. Okay, it looks like that is all of the questions. Answered it, does you estimate? Yes, I would definitely recommend JavaScript. I definitely think it's good to have because it provides a lot of flexibility. And also most of the time when you're returning some information in a data form, such as API or retrieving information from emails, it will be returned in a JSON file in which you would need to be able to extract those contents to be able to create variables out of them. Good questions, guys, good questions. Can you explain? Let me just do this so I can go back here. Python would be okay. Do some focus on JavaScript. Absolutely. So I think with Python, since you have the ability to select the file, it wouldn't necessarily be much scripting inside of the Studio Pro. It would just be selecting the path to the Python file and specifying those parameters, rather as the JavaScript will open up a new window for you to actually edit code, for you to have the ability to paste the code or manually write the code directly there. Run a local Neek script via the bot runner without having connect to the orchestrator. Yes, you can. The reason for this question is for those cases where no outside access to the internet is allowed. Yes. So I'm going to answer live. So with this one, you can have the ability to run a manual file using the bot runner. What you would need to do is once the file is created inside of Studio Pro or the automation workflow is created and has been saved, you can either email it, send it to them in a message, zip the file and send it for them to be able to go in to click and run. Can you explain the protections, segregation, and security for multi-tenancy? Absolutely. We actually have a page on that. I will try to get that posted in the chat during this initial webinar. If I don't get that posted during the chat, we do have your email and I'm able to send you that information to your email. Can we have access to a sandbox like the one you just demonstrated so we can create products for our clients to demonstrate the application works? So I actually use my real licensing. I don't have a sandbox mode. At this time, we don't offer a sandbox mode for the ability to go in and openly create. I think there, let's see, you can demonstrate the application that works. If you're looking for the ability to go in and verify, there may be someone who you can talk to who can help you clarify some information there. For their specific needs. So I think we can get you connected with someone who can better answer that question when it comes to sandbox mode. We don't actually have a basically mock development is what I would like to call it. We don't have that feature as of yet. This product. What is the difference between your product and Azure Logic apps and maybe Zapier? I'm not familiar with Azure, but I am familiar with Zapier. I can say the difference that we have, a very big difference, is our focus on partnership, as the platform is a bonus. So our initial business standpoint is a partnership, as we would like to help MSPs to better develop, to better grow, have availability to marketing tools, different resources that they're able to use, and also be able to have a community with other MSPs. So our biggest difference there would be partnership. From a technical standpoint, I can say Studio Pro and ElectroNeek Bot Runner and also the orchestrator has tons of different abilities in what you may find in other companies. A big one I would like to point out is the ability to have that low code, no code. For example, if you're starting out brand new, it's definitely easy to adjust to, not super hard to figure out. Definitely gives you the ability to explore that creative sense without having to rely on so much coding, so much scripting, or knowledge regarding different S curls, C curls. Drag and drop is the basis of it here. Good question, guys. Very, very good questions. Any more questions there? Let's see. What am I missing here? Walks in bikes out of interest to have a chance to learn the product by using it for education purposes. Definitely understand. I will definitely take your request and run it up the line here. If you have any more questions, guys, please feel free to ask them. While we're waiting on more questions to come in, I do want to point out a couple of things, such as the ability to connect with us on the ElectroNeek community forum. Our forum is definitely a great resource for any of your technical questions, any feature requests, any ElectroNeek solutions. You also have the ability to find other members and talk to other peers to crowdsource answers and information. For example, if you're interested in getting into the ElectroNeek platform and you just want to ask around to some users who are currently using the platform already, or some MSP companies who have developed and are growing successfully, you can write and sign up to our ElectroNeek community forum to be able to connect with those people. It's absolutely free. Anyone can sign up, no special requests or credentials needed. You would just go to the link there and then create a sign up. And also our YouTube page. If you have not subscribed, I will definitely say subscribe, it's worth it. You'll have the ability to see any technical webinars as we've done today. Also have the up-to-date release updates. You'll see technical workshops. So this is actual use cases that are being created, and we're making videos doing those use cases and explaining our steps as we create. Also, you'll find product videos. So if there's any new changes with Studio Pro, any new changes with Orchestrator, you'll be the first to see on the YouTube page. And these videos are also available in multiple different languages, such as Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, English, and more. A bonus event in here is that we're also starting a open office Q&A tech session, which will be every 2 weeks. So in this Q&A session, you can feel free to ask about features, functionality, capability, any lingering questions that you may have regarding the tech aspect, questions regarding how-tos, best advice or best suggestions. Feel free to open and ask away. Can you run SQL scripts, i.e. read, check for existing records, skip if found, and insert if not without modifying code using one of the process? Yes, you have the ability to run SQL scripts. For example, if you're looking for a connection to database, we also offer that as well. But if you're just looking to run the actual script, you can use the command prompt and it'll work super efficiently. Now, when it comes to modifying the code of one of the process, if you're meaning in the contents of where you have a Studio Pro window open and where you're running a test for one SQL script, and then you would also like to copy that same workflow and move it over to another tab and still work within that same flow, you have the ability to without changing the actual main structure. Good questions, great questions. Any more questions, guys? I'll leave it open for a few more minutes here. pricing. I can connect you to the right person for that. I would not have the answer for pricing, but I can definitely connect you to the right person. I will keep that in mind, Alex. Great question. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for attending our webinar today. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and we always wish you a happy automation from ElectroNeek. Thank you. Bye, guys.